Nagumo woke up to find himself lying in the midst of a pitch-black maze, devoid of any light except for a glimmer from a distant crystal shining through. He thought he was still not fully awake, but upon looking again, he realized the surrounding atmosphere was eerily silent, as if the world had stopped spinning, leaving only a chilling stillness similar to the feeling one has when facing a life-altering crossroad without knowing which path to take. Nagumo felt overwhelmed not only by the surrounding space, but also by the pressure of the difficult choices he was about to face. As Nagumo's eyes adjusted to the darkness, a dim white figure gradually appeared before him. It was a small, soft, and seemingly harmless rabbit. But life teaches us that not everything that looks gentle is so. Today, Nagumo would learn that lesson in a rather unpleasant way. Before he could react, two ferocious wolves emerged from the darkness like flashes of lightning, attacking the rabbit with the ferocity of predators. While speaking, he stood motionless, surprised and concerned for the rabbit's fate. But what happened next left him so stunned that he nearly forgot to breathe. Instead of becoming a victim, the rabbit suddenly stood up with unimaginable speed, and in a blink, it cleaved both wolves in half with a sharp and precise strike like a seasoned warrior. Nagumo could only mutter in horror, "A rabbit eating wolves, what is this?" But the shock did not stop there. After dealing with the wolves, the rabbit turned to look at him, its eyes, once innocent, now transformed into the menacing gaze of a predator targeting its next prey. Without giving Nagumo time to think, it charged towards him, its long tail like a sword, ready to strike down. Just when it seemed there was no escape, a loud roar echoed from behind, and a giant, agile yet bulky bear appeared, baring its sharp teeth. The rabbit turned to flee but was too slow. With a powerful slap, the bear knocked it down, its sharp claws tearing through the rabbit's head, causing blood to spew profusely. Overwhelmed by a survival instinct, Nagumo panicked and turned to run. However, the nightmare was not over yet, as the bear, after defeating the rabbit, immediately turned its attention towards Nagumo. The heavy footsteps of the bear shook the ground as it pursued Nagumo. Despite running with all his might, the bear's claws managed to reach him, delivering a critical swipe that cost Nagumo an arm. The excruciating pain spread throughout his body, but worse, he was horrified to see the bear chewing on his arm right before his eyes. At that moment, nearly despairing, Nagumo, in his panic, managed to activate his ability to continuously create earth and stone walls to block the bear's path. Finally, after escaping into a deep cave and exhausting his strength, Nagumo felt his blood slowly leaving his body, and he passed out, thinking this was the end. However, just when all seemed lost, a miraculous light from a nearby crystal flashed. This crystal was no ordinary object. It contained ancient mana, a power that could save him from the clutches of death. Knowing that drinking the liquid from the crystal could lead to unpredictable consequences, but with no other options left, Nagumo reached out and drank it. As the transformation took place, Nagumo's body underwent a profound change that was beyond expectation. His jet black hair gradually turned into a radiant silver white, shining under the dim light of the maze. His muscles swelled with strength, veins prominently visible on his skin as each cell in his body seemed to be infused with a new, powerful, and dangerous energy. Not only his appearance but also his inner being changed significantly. His ability to control mana, which was previously average, now increased remarkably. Nagumo no longer needed to chant to perform complex spells. Now, he only needed to think, and energy would flow from his body like an endless magical stream. Nagumo was no longer the weak and timid boy he once was. With his silver hair and cold, sharp eyes, he was like a creature part human, part monster, a true hunter capable of devouring his enemies to increase his strength. His desire for revenge and survival merged within him, turning him into a relentless fighting machine. With this new strength, Nagumo began his merciless journey of revenge. First, he cleverly lured a spectral wolf into a trap. Without hesitation, he swiftly lifted rocks and earth, trapping the beast within a heavy mass of stone. With a cold smile, Nagumo not only eliminated the wolf, but also boldly proceeded to devour it on the spot. As each piece of firm hunted meat dissolved in his mouth, he could feel the wild energy of the beast merging into his body. His strength continued to increase with every beat of his heart, each breath making Nagumo increasingly formidable. Not stopping there, Nagumo continued to explore the secrets of the maze, which was filled with numerous rare minerals. With his ability to control mana and his boundless creativity, he began using these minerals to create new types of weapons. One of his most impressive achievements was crafting a gun from a rare type of rock found in the maze. This gun, with its absolute precision and destructive power, became a useful tool in Nagumo's quest for revenge. When he encountered the malicious rabbit that had previously troubled him, Nagumo did not hesitate. With a decisive movement, he raised the gun and fired a shot straight into its head, the sound echoing throughout the maze as the creature fell instantly. Without pausing to realize what had happened, Nagumo calmly approached, bent down, and continued his haunting ritual of consuming the rabbit to absorb its power. With every step deeper into the heart of the Nagumo labyrinth, he felt a transformation within himself. Not only physically but also mentally, he became stronger, evolving from a deserted and betrayed young man into a warrior who knew no fear. His goal was not merely to survive, but to seek out and destroy those who betrayed him, those who pushed him into this harsh predicament. However, Nagumo's journey didn't end there. Within the dark and dangerous labyrinth, he discovered another mystery, a mysteriously captivating imprisoned girl. An unexplainable urge compelled him to rescue her, though he knew that doing so would mean facing the most terrifying monsters and unprecedented challenges. But he was ready to confront, fight, and become a hunter no one dared challenge. Nagumo was accustomed to undergoing strong transformations each time he consumed the flesh of powerful monsters or drank from a mystical crystal. His physical attributes, speed, strength, and endurance skyrocketed as if he were surpassing human limits bit by bit, gradually turning him into an almost invincible creature. However, this time was different. After consuming a huge bear's meat and drinking the water from the crystal in his hand, Nagumo felt no change, not even the slightest. Feeling let down, he quickly checked his stat panel, hoping for at least a small sign of progress. But the screen before him remained unchanged, as if his body had hit an invisible wall that he could not surpass. It became clear to Nagumo that the strength from the creatures and resources of this level was no longer sufficient to nourish him, lacking the ability to propel his extraordinary development as he had hoped. Nagumo realized that he could no longer rely solely on luck or the mystical gifts of the labyrinth. The only path forward was to delve into deeper layers, where more dangerous monsters and even more severe challenges awaited, places that could push him to new limits, where he could find the strength he desperately sought with renewed determination. He stepped down the stairs leading to the deepest layer of the labyrinth, his footsteps echoing in the murky darkness of the path ahead. Shortly after leaving his shelter, Nagumo encountered a new creature, a massive gorgon, its body covered with rock-hard scales, but even more terrifying were its eyes. Nagumo had heard horrifying stories about this species, whose gaze could instantly petrify any living thing, turning everything to stone with just a direct look. Staring into the fiery red eyes of the monster, Nagumo could feel death lurking. A chill ran down his spine, but he quickly composed himself, not allowing fear to overtake his reason. With the sharpness of an experienced warrior, Nagumo quickly threw a flare, a small weapon yet capable of creating a ray of hope in this desperate situation. The blinding light from the flare disoriented the gorgon, its fiery red eyes becoming blurred. Seizing this brief opportunity, Nagumo drew his gun, aimed straight at the creature's head, and pulled the trigger. The bullet flew at a terrifying speed, striking straight into the gorgon's skull, ending its life in an instant. The massive creature collapsed to the ground, creating a resounding noise in the dark maze. Nagumo sighed in relief, his hands still slightly trembling with nervousness, but he knew he couldn't linger for long. He regained his composure and continued forward, hunting other monsters to enhance his skills and strength. Meanwhile, in the outside world, Nagumo's former teammates were undergoing their own torments. Shirasaki, the girl with a pure soul and a passionate heart, incessantly blamed herself since witnessing Nagumo fall into the abyss. Racked with guilt, she had tried to follow to save him, but the new team leader had ordered her to stop. In his fear of losing another person, he even knocked Shirasaki unconscious, preventing her from acting on her will. Since then, Shirasaki had been in a deep, oblivious sleep, unaware of the surroundings. Shizuku, another member of the former team, also couldn't escape feelings of helplessness and worry, constantly telling herself that she needed to become stronger to protect those she cherished. But every time she went out to train, images of Nagumo would still persist in her mind. Shizuku focused on each strike and move, but couldn't shake off the worry about whether Nagumo was still alive or had perished in the abyss. When the training session ended and she returned, Shirasaki woke up, her eyes reflecting despair as she asked about Nagumo. Shizuku didn't know how to respond and could only hold Shirasaki tightly as they both cried silently. Meanwhile, Nagumo had surpassed the 50th floor of the labyrinth, facing a huge stone door. Two stone statues stood guard by the massive door, but moved unexpectedly as he approached, revealing themselves as two monstrous creatures. Their fiery red eyes glowed with hostility in the darkness. Without hesitation, Nagumo drew his gun and aimed at the red monster, firing a fatal shot that brought it down instantly. However, the second creature, surrounded by a magical armor, was not easily defeated. Nagumo's bullets only sparked small flares on its protective layer. But instead of feeling discouraged, Nagumo switched his ammunition and charged forward at a terrifying speed, unleashing a barrage of attacks. The magical defense of the monster began to crack, and at that moment, Nagumo leaped from behind and fired a bullet straight into its head, ending the battle. Looking at the bodies of the two monsters before him, Nagumo smiled slightly and began to enjoy the flesh of the beast he had just slain, savoring each bite. During his meal, he discovered several mysterious red orbs inside the creature's body and quickly realized that they were the key to opening the giant door in front of him. As the door slowly opened, Nagumo stepped into a room glowing with magical light. Magical energy streams twisted everywhere, focusing around a brilliantly glowing golden cube suspended in mid-air. Nagumo approached, but before he could touch it, a familiar figure appeared inside the cube, a girl with sparkling eyes full of pleading. She explained that she had been betrayed by her teammates and sealed within the cube. Her story resonated with Nagumo, stirring up painful memories of being betrayed and abandoned by his own teammates in the labyrinth. This empathy made Nagumo decide to help the girl. Nagumo concentrated his magical power, channeling all his strength into his hands to crush the cube. A loud explosion followed, and the girl was freed. However, as the seal broke, Nagumo discovered something that made him blush. The girl was not wearing any clothes. He exclaimed in embarrassment while the girl stood there, uncovered. Nagumo tried to remain calm and asked for her name, but she declined to reveal her old name and asked Nagumo to give her a new one. After some thought, he decided to name her Yu, inspired by the shimmering light of the moon. As soon as Nagumo named Yu, a strange sound came from behind. Before he could react, a hidden weapon struck his arm, causing him to stagger. Immediately, Yu stood up and signaled him to prepare for the next battle. However, this time Nagumo was not alone. Yu was ready to fight alongside him against enemies lurking in the shadows. Nagumo lay on the ground, his back covered in wounds from stone arrows shot by a vicious monster. His face contorted in pain as he endured the physical suffering. But he remained resilient. Yu sat beside him, her eyes filled with anxious concern for the wounds inflicted on Nagumo. But she restrained her emotions, knowing he wouldn't want her to worry too much. In a hurry, Nagumo poured water from a sacred crystal onto his back, and Yu helped remove the hidden weapons. It turned out that a giant crab had shot them, tasked with ensuring Nagumo couldn't escape. Nagumo handed Yu a long cloak, thinking it would hinder her ability to fight. At that moment, Nagumo and Yu were battling the crab, but its shell was so hard that their attacks couldn't penetrate it. However, it was actually a scorpion, not a crab, which amused Nagumo as he had recently watched a movie featuring crab eating and was craving it. Both knew that everything originated from a vicious character guarding Yu, wanting to keep her there and prevent Nagumo from taking her away. When they tried to leave, the monster immediately attacked them. Despite his injuries, Nagumo bravely carried Yu on his back, resisting each wave of attacks from the giant scorpions charging at them. After a fierce struggle with the scorpion, Yu bit Nagumo's neck and drank his blood. Using his transformative power, Nagumo severed the monster's finger to stop its attacks, then retaliated with rocks and debris against the scorpion. After the blood-sucking, Yu used advanced magic to create a magic orb and dropped it straight onto the scorpion's head, but it remained unharmed. The two then combined their attacks on a single spot and finally defeated the scorpion. At that moment, Yu asked Nagumo why he didn't run away but chose to stay, to which he replied that he understood her feelings of betrayal and decided to stay and fight together. Upon hearing this, Yu was very pleased. Nagumo began to butcher the scorpion and inquired about Yu. Learning that she was over 300 years old, did not need food, only blood for using magic. She explained that the maze was built by a maverick, messengers of the supreme being who fought against the gods of the Christian era but failed, so they built the maze to hide in its deepest lair. Nagumo continued his journey, quickly moving on to crafting. Given the hardness of the scorpion's shell, he decided to create a new gun stronger than anything he had made before, naming it Slogan. He couldn't hide his pride in his new creation. As they walked, Nagumo talked about his experiences since entering this cave, and Yu wept bitterly, finding it too cruel for a human. At that moment, Nagumo said that he did not seek revenge, but only wanted to become stronger so he could return home. Hearing this made Yu sad about soon having to part from him, but Nagumo smiled and suggested she return home with him. Meanwhile, far away in a palace, Nagumo's friends continued to diligently train to improve their fighting abilities, seemingly forgetting about him. Back in the maze, both were chased by dinosaurs with flowers growing on their heads. These dinosaurs were parasitized by the flowers and controlled. The two managed to run into a cave and discovered many similar flowers inside. Deeper inside, they saw blue seeds floating in the air. Nagumo used his transformative power to create a hiding spot. But suddenly Yu began to attack him. Luckily he noticed in time and dodged. A flower grew on Yu's head as she continued her assault, and while dodging, Nagumo accidentally touched the blue seeds and was struck by an explosion. At that moment, the flower monster appeared, and Yu, controlled by the flower, turned to attack Nagumo. Amidst the chaos, Yu earnestly pleaded for him to kill the flower controller, telling him not to worry if he hit her, but Nagumo coolly responded that she wouldn't be able to hit him anyway. With just 2 precise shots, he sent the flower controller to the skies. After eating, they continued their journey and finally reached the 100th layer, the deepest of the maze. No one except the builder had ever set foot here, and with each step, their caution grew, filled with suspicion. Ultimately, they discovered a large gate that seemed to conceal something secretive behind it. Strangely, this door was not as difficult to open as the previous ones, and in just a moment, the two easily stepped inside. After the large door opened, Nagumo and Yu entered a completely different space. The architecture here astonished them, with pristine alabaster stone walls, intricately carved golden pillars, and lavish decorative details reminiscent of a royal palace. They stood there for a moment, unable to take their eyes off the scene before them. Nagumo shrugged and remarked that if this wasn't the residence of the Maverick, the creator of the maze, then it must certainly be the living room of some king. Yu whispered in agreement, seemingly suggesting that they were close to their goal, when suddenly the space around them began to tremble, and a giant magical circle appeared on the ground, glowing brightly and powerfully. The atmosphere turned oppressive, signaling the arrival of the strongest enemy in the maze, the final boss. Yu and Nagumo exchanged a resolute look, promising each other that they would not lose, for victory was the only path to survival. The massive figure of the monster gradually became clear from within the magical circle. It was a giant snake with an endless body and 5 heads, each embodying a powerful element. Their combination formed a terrifying entity where each head could cause tremendous destruction. Without hesitation, Nagumo aimed and fired at the heads with the elements of fire and water, the gun in his hand making deafening explosions, while Yu immediately used ice magic to strike at the wood element head. However, they quickly realized that this battle was not as easy as they had imagined. The heads of the giant snake were not only powerful, but also had the ability to heal themselves at an astonishing rate. Any wounds inflicted by Nagumo and Yu were healed instantly. Moreover, each time one head attacked, another head would alternately defend in a perfectly synchronized manner. The duo understood that if they didn't quickly find a weakness, they would be drawn into an endless battle. Nagumo and Yu soon realized that their real target was the core of the heart that controlled the snake's power. They attacked it together, but suddenly another snake lunged to block the attack, and the core healed immediately. Everything became more chaotic as the attacks and defenses of the heads intertwined, creating a whirlwind of chaos that was difficult to predict. During the intense battle, Yu was suddenly struck by one of the snake's heads, flinging her against a stone wall, which left her dazed. As she tried to lift her head, she realized she was trapped inside a magical cage, and Nagumo, whom she always trusted, seemed to be leaving her behind. Overwhelmed by despair, fear, and helplessness, Yu screamed, her voice echoing through the space like a cry for help before she slumped to the ground, feeling all hope had been extinguished. But before the snake could launch another attack, Nagumo unexpectedly reappeared, shooting a precise bullet at the monster, followed by throwing a grenade towards it. The explosion resulted in a thick cloud of smoke, and he quickly created a small shelter for them to temporarily escape. Breathing heavily, Yu felt a mix of relief and confusion. Inside the shelter, she couldn't hold back her fear and confessed that she had been terrified that Nagumo would abandon her in this deadly battle. In that moment, Nagumo didn't say much. He simply kissed her forehead, promising that he would never leave her side and would fight to the end so both could survive. The kiss not only calmed Yu's fears but also energized her, filling her with a new strength as if her worries had been completely dispelled. With renewed unity and high spirits, Yu and Nagumo plunged back into the battle. Nagumo, with a bright smile and eyes sparkling with confidence, held his rifle firmly and fired repeatedly at the snakes' heads. Meanwhile, Yu summoned 5 magical orbs and attacked each head of the monster. Just as victory seemed within reach, Nagumo quickly realized that the gray head of the snake was still alive. In an instant, it unleashed a powerful beam of light straight at him. Unable to dodge in time, Nagumo was struck by the attack and fell to the ground, his blood soaking the earth. Horrified, Yu immediately created a magical shield to block the next attack from the snake and quickly carried Nagumo back to their makeshift shelter. Trembling, she gave him holy water to drink, hoping to save his life before things got worse. With no other choice left, Yu decided to take the battle into her own hands. She grabbed Nagumo's gun and charged at the snake, but despite how many bullets she fired, the wounds she inflicted were not enough to weaken the monster. As the snake prepared for another attack, Yu used all her remaining strength to defend, but the situation seemed increasingly desperate. Just then, Nagumo appeared from behind, embracing Yu and pulling her away from the snake's strike in the nick of time. Both fell to the ground, and Yu burst into tears, overwhelmed by fear and concern for the future. Her crying seemed to awaken a latent power within Nagumo. With a resolute determination not to let the situation drag on, he stood up, his eyes blazing with conviction. He told Yu that they would win together, without giving up. Nagumo then asked Yu to drink his blood to boost her strength, while he took on the defense. He quickly threw grenades around the snake, hitting the cave ceiling and causing it to collapse onto the monster's massive body. In a decisive moment, Yu channeled all her remaining magic to summon a massive attack and hurled it directly at the snake's body. The tremendous power of this attack finally vanquished the monster once and for all. After the tense battle, Nagumo collapsed, completely exhausted, and Yu, equally fatigued, lay down beside him, feeling the faint breaths of life that still lingered in both of them. In that moment of calm, they breathed a sigh of relief. The battle was finally over, and they were still together. Meanwhile, in a distant palace, a priest and a teacher were engaged in a heated argument. The priest tried to coerce the students into joining the fight despite their reluctance. The teacher, angered by this unreasonable imposition, vowed not to assist with the farm or other tasks if this continued. She remembered her promise to protect everyone, something she should have done earlier, before Nagumo left. Seeing her determination, the priest conceded, promising not to force anyone into battle if they did not wish to participate. When Nagumo woke up, the first sensation he felt was a sharp pain from his wounds, which, although not fully healed, had been carefully bandaged. However, what truly shocked him was finding himself naked, wrapped in a soft blanket, with Yu also in a similar state next to him. His heart raced and embarrassment quickly surged. Without further thought, he activated an electric field in a panicked effort to protect himself while calling Yu, whom he secretly nicknamed the sexy, bloodthirsty one, to wake up. Yu gently opened her eyes, her lips curling into a tender smile upon seeing the flustered Nagumo. She lightly touched his face as if to calm the storm of anxiety engulfing him. Yu's soothing voice helped Nagumo regain some composure, and he realized that this place was not just a simple room, but a special location of Eric's domain, a mysterious and dangerous space. Yet, at this moment, the peculiar sense of safety from Yu's presence made his concerns about the place momentarily dissolve. After dressing, the two approached a nearby abandoned house. This house was not only splendid but also equipped with modern conveniences, particularly a large shimmering bathtub filled with crystal clear water. Yu, of course, did not miss the opportunity for a bath, which almost choked Nagumo, who immediately declined without hesitation. After surviving the invitation to bathe together, they continued to explore the second floor, where they discovered a large library, but its door was tightly locked. Unable to enter, they decided to go up to the third floor, where they found only one room. In the center of the room on an antique armchair sat a human skeleton, possibly holding the key to their return to the surface. As Nagumo stepped into the center of the circle, a red light flashed, and images began to emerge in his mind. Suddenly, the skeleton transformed into the image of a handsome man who stood up and looked towards Nagumo. Nagumo was immediately on guard, but the man revealed that he was the creator of the labyrinth. Nagumo attempted to communicate with the spirit, but soon realized that it was only a recording, not an actual spirit. Despite this, Nagumo patiently listened without receiving answers to his questions. As Oscar recounted the truth about the palace and the purpose of its creators, Nagumo began to understand that things were not as simple as they seemed. Those who built this place were not the villains as rumored. They only wanted to protect the world from dark forces. Meanwhile, Nagumo's former teammates had also reached the 65th floor. There, they coordinated seamlessly to fight against a giant bull-headed monster, while other members battled warrior skeletons. After a long struggle and tireless effort, they finally defeated the bull-headed monster, and the warrior skeletons subsequently disintegrated. Back with Nagumo, the mysterious man standing before him with a deep, commanding voice announced that he would transfer all his power to Nagumo. However, he also cautioned Nagumo to use this power wisely and never to exploit it for dark or evil purposes. This made Nagumo reflect for a moment, realizing that power was not just about authority, but also a significant responsibility that he would have to bear. The process of receiving the power was not easy. Nagumo closed his eyes and focused on feeling the strong energy flowing from the man. It felt like a violent wave crashing into his mind and body, with each molecule of energy weaving into every cell, embedding deeply into Nagumo's subconscious. This was not just raw power, but also involved highly complex magical knowledge. The feeling was overwhelming yet exhilarating, like a whole new world opening up before him. When the energy fully merged into his body, Nagumo realized he had learned an ancient magic called creation magic. This magical ability allowed him to imbue raw minerals with energy and transform them into items with unique shapes and properties. This power could manifest as weapons, tools, or anything else Nagumo desired, demonstrating that his ability was not only about destruction but also about construction and creativity, a rare capability few possessed. Although Yu was curious and tried to practice this magic, unfortunately, she could not adapt to it. However, Yu was not disheartened but rather smiled contentedly, pleased to see Nagumo armed with a powerful tool to protect them both. That evening, after a long day of experimenting, Nagumo decided to visit a hot spring to relax. The warm steam mingled with the serene mountainous landscape around him as he let his body unwind, feeling the tension of the day dissolve in the soothing waters. However, the tranquility was short-lived when Yu, with her alluring demeanor, entered the spring, confidently shedding her clothes and approaching Nagumo. This scene made Nagumo blush and turn his head away in embarrassment, stuttering that she should at least cover herself with a towel. But Yu, with her usual confidence and playfulness, stood up, looked straight at Nagumo, and declared she wanted him to see all of her, that all she was would be his. Her bold and determined statement left Nagumo speechless. Despite his embarrassment, deep down, Nagumo felt a bit of happiness and fortune to have such a dedicated and wonderful companion. In the following days, with the power of creation magic, Nagumo continuously practiced and refined his abilities. By transferring energy and manipulating minerals, he created unbelievable things: modern firearms, documents, motorcycles, and even a car, all from basic materials. Nagumo also began hunting monsters, dangerous and mystical creatures. Each time he defeated a monster, he not only collected valuable materials from them, but also learned new skills and techniques. This experience made Nagumo increasingly stronger, diversifying his combat capabilities. Along with Yu, they trained relentlessly for 2 months, facing a new challenge every day. Together, they overcame various difficulties, strengthening both physically and mentally to become stronger than ever before. Finally, feeling sufficiently strong and well prepared, Nagumo and Yu stood together inside a magical circle, enveloped by a magical light, a symbol of a new chapter in their long and perilous journey filled with anticipation. They exchanged determined glances, ready to face whatever challenges awaited them. Then, the glowing magical circle propelled them forward, embarking them on a new adventure. Outside, there was a sexy bunny girl eagerly waiting for someone. Unexpectedly, a dinosaur appeared, forcing her to quickly flee for safety. While climbing a mountain to escape the dinosaur, a beam of energy shot down from the mountain's face. It was Nagumo, who had just emerged from the labyrinth, and he was also the person the bunny girl was searching for. As they were rejoicing over their escape, the bunny girl approached, expressing that she had been waiting for them for a long time. She attempted to jump and embrace them, but due to her limited jumping ability, she ended up planting her face in the ground, desperately clinging to Nagumo's legs and pleading with him not to leave. At that moment, the dinosaur reappeared in front of the three, causing the bunny girl to panic and urge everyone to flee because the creature was formidable. However, Nagumo simply raised his gun and shot the dinosaur, killing it instantly. The bunny girl was stunned by his strength, but continued to cling to Nagumo's legs. Nagumo, feeling threatened, pointed the gun at her, but she refused to let go. Eventually, Nagumo relented and agreed to help her. Overjoyed, the bunny girl used his shirt to wipe her tears. However, as soon as she finished, Nagumo shot her in the head. He thought to himself about encountering another gentle, beautiful girl, but then remarked that she could not be as beautiful as you. Hearing this, the bunny girl confidently declared that her body was far more attractive than Yu's, unaware that she had provoked a serious threat. Immediately, Yu summoned a whirlwind that swept the bunny girl away. Later, the bunny girl returned and mentioned that she had used her clairvoyance to foresee the future. She saw that Nagumo and Yu would be the saviors of the Holia tribe. When they were about to decline and leave, she quickly added that if they wanted to explore, she would be their guide. Hearing this, Yu suggested to Nagumo that having a guide would be more convenient, and they both agreed to help her. No sooner had they agreed than the bunny girl jumped onto Nagumo, which enraged Yu, who then froze her solid. Thus, the three of them ventured into the forest, into the depths where the rabbit-like Holia tribe resided. The people there resembled humans, but their most distinctive feature was the upright rabbit ears on their heads, creating a unique and striking appearance. They were all gentle and posed no danger to others. As a rabbit family was foraging, they were attacked by a dragon. Suddenly, the dragon was slain by Nagumo's group from a distance. Immediately, he grabbed the bunny girl and threw her high into the air to lure the dragons. After shooting down each dinosaur, Nagumo timely caught the bunny girl before she hit the ground. Otherwise, she would have been doomed. In the following days, Nagumo and Yu continued to eliminate monsters in the forest, defeating a significant number. That morning, the people of the Holia tribe came to plead with the two to train them to become stronger. Yu and the bunny girl began training together. However, as soon as they started, Yu blew the bunny girl away along with her dreams. Meanwhile, the villagers were so timid that they couldn't even kill a mouse, making them ineffective in battle. Nagumo felt helpless about their gentle nature, so he crushed a flower that they adored and told them to get serious, declaring that in this world, it's either kill or be killed. Over the next days, Yu continued to train with the bunny girl, repeatedly freezing her, but the bunny girl managed to scratch Yu's face. When Nagumo arrived, the bunny girl boasted as though she had achieved a great victory. But at that time, the villagers also arrived, looking dangerous, making it unclear how Nagumo's training method had made everyone appear so menacing. As the day to depart approached, they were led to another gate resembling the labyrinth's gate. The entire Holia tribe wanted to accompany Nagumo to protect him, but this idea was rejected. He advised them to stay in the forest and train themselves. After training, the rabbit person led Nagumo and Yu to a giant tree that had been dead for a long time but had not decayed. There, they found an ancient stone tablet, and after thorough research, they realized that to return home, they would have to traverse several labyrinths to find special stones to unlock the matrix. That evening, the bunny girl reminisced about memories with her mother, who had told her that one day she would meet wonderful teammates outside the forest and journey together. Thinking of her promise to Yu, the bunny girl decided to ask to accompany them. And the next morning, Yu agreed to let the bunny girl join because of the promise, and Nagumo also agreed reluctantly. The bunny girl was thrilled to start a new journey with them. As they reached a cliff, the bunny girl named she accidentally discovered a dark, damp cave that seemed to hold mysterious secrets. Despite having no intention to explore, her curiosity overcame her, and she decided to go inside to see what was there, hoping perhaps to find a treasure that could change her life. Venturing deeper into the cave, she unexpectedly discovered a secret passage, making her believe it was the way to the treasure. As the group moved deeper into the underground labyrinth, Nagumo took the lead, continuously dismantling traps along the way with his gun. Not to be outdone, she also faced the surprises of the labyrinth. She nearly got hit by a trap, frightening her to the extent that she wet herself, her face pale and furrowed with worry. They gradually entered a more dangerous area, where a dim corridor stretched out endlessly in the pitch darkness. Suddenly, giant boulders began rolling towards them. Nagumo quickly drew his gun to shoot the boulders, but before he could act, she charged forward. Swift as the wind, she used her enormous hammer to smash the boulders, sending them flying into the walls. Just when it seemed they had overcome the challenge, two sharp blades from the ceiling shot down, slicing the air as if to cut them to pieces. She once again showcased her skills by using her hammer to block the blades, creating an opportunity for Nagumo and Yu to safely cross to the other side. The trio then had to swing from ropes and smash through walls, with she getting caught in various traps. Crawling into a small hole, something white splattered on her face, startling her and then angering her, but they finally reached a large room. Inside, there were suits of armor standing guard on both sides and a splendid golden throne in the middle. As they entered, the suits of armor began to move, not waiting long before all three immediately engaged in battle. They dodged and fought, trying to overcome the tough armor. With her strength, she broke through the final door, and the three of them entered a completely different space. Atop a giant stone, a large suit of armor appeared, seemingly the final boss of the labyrinth. The suit of armor proudly declared that they had passed her brother's labyrinth, introduced herself as Minnie, and asked Nagumo about his ultimate goal. Without hesitation, Nagumo replied that he was seeking the grand magic that would allow him to move freely between worlds. Minnie was not surprised by his answer, but nonchalantly responded that it didn't exist, forcing the group to defeat the armor by destroying its core, the heart holding the boss's power. However, this was no easy task, as the armor was made from an ultra-hard metal with self-healing capabilities. As the trio looked for ways to attack, the armor lifted heavy spheres and then dropped them, creating a series of intense shocks. Taking advantage of the chaotic situation, the armor attempted to flee, but Nagumo quickly blocked its path. You shot an energy beam at its back while Nagumo approached closer, trying to bring it down. You then used ice to freeze the armor, and Nagumo used his gun to fire a huge nail, intending to pierce through the protective armor. But the layer was too thick. While Minnie was still smirking confidently, she suddenly leaped up and slammed her hammer down on the nail, completely destroying the armor's heart. With the boss defeated, after the exhausting battle, you gently patted Shi's head, praising her for doing very well. The remaining energy of the armor, before dissipating, wished Nagumo success in achieving his goal and reminded him not to use ancient magic for evil purposes. A hint of regret passed through them, but the group had little time to ponder as a stone immediately led them to another door. Surprisingly, Minnie was still alive. It turned out that what they had just fought was merely her controlled armor. Unable to hold back any longer, she struck Minnie on the head with her hammer, causing the group to burst into laughter. After bidding farewell, Minnie sent them off by releasing water like flushing a toilet, sweeping them deep into the cave. Inside, a fish with a bizarre face startled Shi, causing her to dive into the water in fright. Nagumo and you later found Shi unconscious, floating in the river. Feeling the situation was critical, Nagumo immediately pulled her up to perform CPR. You watched with a hint of jealousy, but when she woke up, she unexpectedly hugged and passionately kissed Nagumo, which angered him so much that he threw her far away. Eventually, all three, wet and exhausted, rented a room. Everyone wanted to sleep next to Nagumo, driving him so mad that he almost drew his gun, ready to deal with Shi right then and there. The day after, a man named Chang, who heads the Gilferin organization, appeared. He had heard rumors about 3 talented individuals who had easily crossed a canyon and was interested in their abilities. Chang had a special request believing that they could complete it. But before he could elaborate, Nagumo bluntly refused. However, when Chang promised to take care of all the paperwork and not to worry them further, Nagumo agreed to take on the task that Chang proposed. While on their way to carry out the mission, the young girl she had fallen asleep without anyone noticing. Previously, at the Adventurers' Hall, Chang explained that a group of adventurers had gone to the northern mountains for a survey, including Ween, the 3rd child of Holia. Despite being highly skilled, this group of adventurers had suffered many casualties because they couldn't withstand the strong enemies they faced. Hearing rumors about Nagumo's group's capabilities, Chang thought Nagumo could help, as Delia was a close friend of his. When Nagumo requested 3 status boards along with some conditions, Chang agreed to all of his requests, and their journey to the northern mountains began. Meanwhile, in a nearby building, Nagumo's old friends and former teacher were working together. That afternoon, they took a break and had a meal together. The chef mentioned that a special guest sent by the leader of Jolly Adventures was there to look for the missing group. Right then, Nagumo's group also arrived and joined the meal. Hearing Nagumo's name mentioned, some people from the other group recognized him as someone they once knew. Nagumo's former teacher immediately ran over with tears in her eyes, asking if he really was Nagumo, but he flatly denied it, saying she was mistaken. After some conversation under the teacher's pressing, Nagumo reluctantly admitted he was indeed her former student. The 4 people sat at the table, but Nagumo hardly paid any attention to the teacher, focusing instead on talking to the 2 girls accompanying him. Seeing this, the teacher asked who these 2 were, and they both simultaneously replied they were with Nagumo, leaving the teacher to sigh in resignation at their response. Nevertheless, she still tried to advise him to reconsider his way of life. asking how he could juggle two like that. While Nagumo continued to eat, indifferent to the teacher's questions, a blonde-haired young man stormed in angrily yelling that their behavior was disrespectful and even insulted she, calling her a filthy beast and threatening to cut off her hand. Yu was furious and about to draw her sword to deal with the man, but Nagumo quickly pushed the man away. The blonde-haired man continued to provoke, saying that someone needed to teach him a lesson and even insulted Nagumo. The atmosphere at the table became tense. After the meal, Nagumo noticed that she was blushing because of the insults from that man. However, Yu complimented her ears as being very soft and cute, mentioning that Nagumo often caressed them while she slept. Hearing this, she instantly perked up, her smile brightening her face. That night, the teacher was still upset about the remarks Nagumo, once a well-behaved student, had made. The more she thought about it, the more frustrated she became, unable to sleep. Unexpectedly, Nagumo came to her room and began to tell the legend of why the labyrinth was created. He revealed that the Mavericks were the ones who created this labyrinth as a challenge for those who truly possessed abilities. When the teacher asked Nagumo what he intended to do with his current power, he replied that he just wanted to find his way back to where he used to live and had no other purpose. She should do what she thought was right. After saying this, he got up to leave, but before he left the room, the teacher added that Shirasaki had never given up on him. She still believed he was alive and was training with everyone in the labyrinth. Hearing this, Nagumo paused, responded that there was someone in her group who had tried to kill him, and advised her to warn Shirasaki and the others to be very careful. Then he left the room. The next morning, as Nagumo's group was preparing to head to the northern mountains, the teacher and some of his schoolmates were waiting at the edge of the forest, wanting to join in on this journey. Nagumo summoned a motorcycle intending to take she and Yu for convenience, but the teacher pleaded to come along, and eventually, he agreed to summon a large truck to accommodate everyone. And they all set off towards the northern mountains where a new mission awaited them. While the group rested on the way back, the teacher took the opportunity to tell Nagumo about the situation of his school friends. She mentioned that Shizuku had been missing for several days and no one could find her, and talked about the pain the group had endured after Nagumo's disappearance. She said that although everything seemed hopeless, there was a flickering belief within the group that he was still alive, and it was this belief that helped them keep training relentlessly. Then, she dozed off, leading Yu and she to sulkily demand a seat change, saying that they would sit with Nagumo on the way back. After arriving at the destination, Nagumo deployed drones to survey the area and discovered traces of a large battle nearby. Upon investigating, they found giant footprints of a monster. The group continued towards the mountain ahead, and when they reached a waterfall, Nagumo sensed someone nearby. Yu quickly used magic to split the waterfall, revealing a hidden path inside. Inside, as expected, they found a blonde-haired man unconscious. Out of compassion, Nagumo roughly woke him up. The man was Ween, the one whom the village chief Julie was searching for. Ween recounted that when his group reached the mountain, they were constantly attacked by monsters, and then a black dragon appeared and killed everyone in his group. Ween felt useless for not being able to save anyone, wishing he had died instead of his teammates. Nagumo angrily grabbed him, saying that life is the most precious thing and one should not speak such words. Nagumo also shared that he had faced life and death in labyrinths, so he understood the effort to survive. As they were about to leave, a strong wind suddenly arose, heralding the black dragon that Ween had mentioned. The dragon prepared to launch a powerful attack at the group, but Nagumo summoned a shield to block the attack. She charged with a hammer while Yu used magic to explode near the dragon's eyes, obstructing its vision. However, the attack wasn't strong enough, and the dragon continued its pursuit. Nagumo told the group to regroup around Yu so he could handle the dragon himself. He pulled out a gigantic rifle, fired with maximum firepower continuously at the dragon, while Yu created a shield to protect everyone from the blast. Finally, Nagumo's relentless firing overwhelmed the dragon. As the dragon fell, Nagumo approached and punched it in the stomach, causing it to vomit up its guts. He didn't stop there. He threw a grenade at the dragon. The dragon tried to gather energy to attack Nagumo, but he easily dodged and continued firing relentlessly at its face. As the dragon took to the air, Nagumo reloaded his massive nail gun and shot it straight at the dragon, pinning it to the ground. She emerged from the river, hammer in hand, and delivered a critical blow that finally downed the dragon. In a desire to end the battle quickly, Nagumo set aside his humanity and used a large iron rod to impale the dragon through its back end, ensuring its defeat without the need for any lubrication. The dragon, which turned out to be a female of the dragonkin, screamed in pain and begged Nagumo to remove the iron rod. She explained that due to certain circumstances, she had been forced into this situation and pleaded with Nagumo to remove the rod, warning that reverting to her original form could be disastrous. Despite her pleas, Nagumo pressed the rod deeper and questioned why, if the dragonkin were thought to be extinct, she was still here fighting adventurers. She revealed that she had left her hidden village to investigate, but was mind-controlled by a man in a black cloak along the way. She swore that dragonkin never lie and that her words were the truth. Yu looked into her eyes and realized that she was telling the truth. The dragon woman explained that the man in the cloak and the monsters were planning a major tragedy that she wanted to prevent. However, Nagumo coldly replied that he didn't care. He was about to strike her again when Ween intervened, questioning if he intended to kill her. At that moment, the dragon woman expressed remorse, accepting her punishment but promising to help everyone. Persuaded by Yu, Nagumo reluctantly removed the rod, and with a strong pull, the dragon woman groaned in pain and transformed back into her human form. Revealing herself as Kaio, a member of the crew's dragon clan, she explained that the man in the black cloak planned to use thousands of monsters to attack a nearby village and she wanted to stop this attack. Using his drones, Nagumo confirmed that an army of monsters was indeed on the move. Despite his concern for the village, Nagumo declared that his only task was to return Ween safely, and that stopping the monsters was the dragon woman's responsibility. Though he sounded cold, under the persistent pleading of his teacher, Nagumo seemed to soften slightly. He wasn't as heartless as people thought. If he were truly selfish, he wouldn't have sacrificed himself in the past to hold off threats to save others. If Nagumo were truly cruel, no traitors would have survived his return from hell. But he didn't act on revenge, only vehemently denying not wanting to face those who betrayed him, which was actually quite merciful. However, Kaio lamented that she was completely out of mana and couldn't go any further. Seeing this, Nagumo sighed, grabbed her by the legs, and dragged her along like pulling a sack of lottery goods. When a gigantic army of monsters marched toward the town, which seemed to be hanging by a thin thread, the mere footsteps of the creatures would have been enough to crush everything without any need for magical power, had it not been for the protective warriors. The next morning, as the pale sunlight weaved through the trees, he stood silently in his small room, recalling his teacher's instructions from the previous day. His mood was neither heavy nor light. The decision was made, and it was time to act. Given the threat to the village, he had no choice but to stand up and protect them. Although he was not a person who lived for duty, deep inside, he knew he could not ignore the innocent people caught in this brutal war. He utilized a transformation spell, a powerful magic understood only by those with deep knowledge. Under his hands, defenses sprang up like mushrooms after the rain, surrounding the village like a sturdy wall. The villagers were astounded by his actions, as if a miracle had occurred right before their eyes. During this time, she gathered those unable to fight, the children, women, and the elderly, into a safe place and even thoughtfully prepared a meal for them. Despite the urgent situation, their spirits were maintained. As night fell and darkness covered the village, Nagumo sat pensively, checking his guns, each bullet meticulously loaded with a chilling precision. In that moment of silence, a figure gently approached him. It was Shella, a friend he had once rescued from a perilous maze. She did not say much but quietly expressed her gratitude. Although her words did not stir Nagumo, he simply uttered a cold yet profoundly emotional phrase, "Don't die." To Shella, this was a sign of Nagumo's concern for her, even though he was reluctant to admit it. Meanwhile, Kaio seemed overly cheerful, as if engaged in a joke, somewhat foolish and oblivious to the imminent danger. Yet, the entire village was still preparing for the battle with the advancing monster army. The monster army, vast and ferocious, approached the village gates, with everyone tense and ready for a fierce battle. Nagumo was the first to act, eliminating an entire group of dragon-like creatures charging into the village with a single precise shot. Following this, Yu summoned a massive energy sphere, akin to a mini-sun, that plummeted onto the monster army, wiping out hundreds of them in an instant. She handled everything with ease, as if it were merely a leisure activity. She, with her superior strength and massive hammer, relentlessly attacked the enemy, while Kaio, despite seeming a bit off, generated intense flames that incinerated waves of monsters before she exhaustedly fell asleep amidst the battle. Yu still had enough energy to launch 2 more powerful attacks, but Nagumo decided not to wait any longer. He and she charged into the remaining monsters unhesitatingly, gunfire echoing everywhere as he shot. each bullet tearing through the air to annihilate any monster that appeared before them. She, with her agility and strength matching his, used her hammer to knock down each one. However, the battle was not without its perilous moments. A large, fierce wolf attacked she from behind. For a moment, it seemed she would be attacked, but surprisingly, it was just a large husky wolf. She smiled gently and struck the wolf on the head with her hammer, dispatching it quicker than any magic could. Eventually, they reached the commander of the monster army, a mysterious figure in a black cloak. Nagumo coldly shot the wolf he was riding, bringing him down immediately. As they captured him, Nagumo realized that the man in the black cloak was none other than a student of their teacher, who had made a pact with demons promising that if he killed the teacher, he would be hailed as a hero. But Nagumo's presence foiled all his plans. Instead of being angry, the teacher gently advised him, hoping the student would return to the right path. However, in a panic, the student held the teacher at bay with a poison needle. Nagumo was about to intervene, but she was quicker. He was forced to shoot, narrowly missing she's waist to hit the student in the chest with the bullet. Even though both the teacher and she took a recovery potion, the student remained in critical condition. The teacher pleaded with Nagumo to save him, but Nagumo knew that the student would never change. Without hesitation, he coldly finished him off, eliminating any hope for a different path. The next day, Nagumo returned Ween to the Count's house, completing his mission. Meanwhile, the teacher and the group of students stayed in the town to continue helping the villagers with farming and developing new crop varieties to ensure the town wouldn't suffer from famine in the event of a natural disaster. Each person was busy with their own tasks, but everyone carried deep thoughts about the future and the path ahead. In a dark basement, a pitiful scene unfolds with a girl who does not appear ordinary. She has snow-white skin, blue hair, and pointed ears resembling a little elf. The girl curls up in a wooden barrel with a desperate, tragic look in her eyes, while a man standing nearby shows a face full of excitement as he prepares to take her to an auction, his expression clearly malicious and devoid of any mercy. After delivering Ween to Nagumo's family, he requests an additional status card as a reward. This action not only aims to accumulate, but also to affirm his acceptance of Kaio, who will now be traveling with the group. Although Kaio is a bit transformed, she looks at Nagumo with affection, understanding that she has been accepted by him. That night, Nagumo stands by the window, the night sky silent without a single star, his gaze following two figures moving stealthily, while Kaio gets caught up in a stream of painful memories. She recalls her past in a village that was fiercely burned to the ground, and before dying, her father instructed her to survive because one day someone would appear to oppose the evil person responsible for everything. This prophecy feels like an omen to Kaio, sensing that the day is nearing, but before the memory can continue, Yu wakes her from her reverie, and she is taken by Nagumo to tour the beautiful scenes of the city. They go to an aquarium, where they discover a talking monster, a fish with a human-like face that looks quite adorable. After talking, Nagumo appreciates the fish's conversation and buys it, then releases it. Meanwhile, Kaio asks Yu if she feels uncomfortable with she always clinging to Nagumo. Yu candidly replies that she does not, trusting she, knowing that she cherishes Nagumo just as she cherishes Yu, a trust that keeps her from feeling threatened or jealous. While Nagumo and she are enjoying a peaceful afternoon stroll, they suddenly discover a weak life form under the water. It is a mermaid girl with a slender body and eyes sparkling with fear, seemingly having just endured horrific days. The girl, named Marie, escaped from the cruel hands of monster traffickers. Kidnapped and sold in the black market, Marie survived and managed to escape, but her strength was depleted. Nagumo and she immediately carry her to a nearby dam where Marie gradually regains consciousness. Recognizing that the two individuals before her are not her enemies, the girl tremblingly recounts her tragic story. She quickly takes her for a hot bath to soothe her mind and body, while Nagumo gently uses a hair dryer to dry each strand of her soft silver hair. For the first time, Marie feels safe, but the fear of being pursued still haunts her. Hearing her heartbreaking story, Nagumo decides to take her to the orphanage to find her relatives. But Marie does not want to leave him and she tearfully clings tightly to Nagumo as if fearing that letting go would cause her newfound safety to disappear forever. Although reluctant, Nagumo still has to take her to a safe place. But before they can do so, Marie scratches his face in a panic, leaving it marked with sweet scars. Just as they leave the orphanage, an explosion sounds from behind, prompting Nagumo and she to immediately turn back. On the wall of the orphanage, a blood-stained message appears, demanding the immediate surrender of the girl with the white hair. Without hesitation, Nagumo and she choose to break through the wall to shorten the path, because obviously, there's no need to go around when you can create a new path with a punch. They meet up with Yu and Kaio, and the four decide to scour the city to eradicate the black market traffickers. Every alley and building becomes a target for the group, leaving no place for the monster traders to hide, and one by one, they are mercilessly eliminated. Eventually, they reach the main cell where the cruel captors are holding Maryu. Just as the leader is about to strike Yu for not obeying, Nagumo suddenly jumps down from above and kicks him in the face with such force that the villain barely has time to realize what's happening before meeting his demise. Nagumo then breaks open the cell door and gently carries Marie out to her cheers of joy, and they soar up high to view the destroyed black market area, championed by the three beautiful girls in Nagumo's harem, each with a unique but powerful appearance. With a cold look, Yu summons thunder to destroy the remaining hideouts of the black market, as a way to console Marie and avenge her. At this moment, Marie finally relaxes completely and affectionately hugs Nagumo, calling him Papa, leaving him pleasantly surprised and slightly embarrassed. Witnessing the girl's charm, not only does Nagumo soften, but all three girls in the group also eagerly encourage him to have a child. Naturally, faced with the persistence of these three women, Nagumo can only respond with a wry smile. With three women and a mermaid girl, this adventure is likely to become much more interesting. The next day, they continued their journey, during which an inappropriate incident occurred right in front of them. A young girl cheekily stuck her backside in Nagumo's face and even stood up on the bike seat to perform her antics like a true prankster. The group of five, including Nagumo, headed to a bustling town that was as lively as a vibrant painting. Everywhere was filled with lush greenery and busy locals engaged in their daily activities, some going to the market, others selling goods, creating a lively and bustling atmosphere. The sound of laughter echoed through the small streets, making the town feel like an endless festival. However, in this bustling environment, Nagumo felt uncomfortable. He did not like this place as it brought back some not-so-pleasant memories. This town was where he and his schoolmates had once come on a mission, and the memories of those combat classes and being abandoned alone in a maze made Nagumo frown. It's true that old places bring back old memories, but not everyone wants to remember such forgettable past events like him. They advanced together on the road, carrying a letter from Chief Gilferin to Mr. Cyclops. The atmosphere was tense, but both displayed no emotions. Suddenly, from a distance, a young man with hair almost covering his face ran up breathlessly and knelt before Nagumo, pleading for help to rescue people trapped in the maze. His voice trembled with fear, clearly visible in each word. Nagumo, who typically avoided getting involved in others' troubles, felt a stir of emotion upon hearing that his old friends were in danger. Rewinding time at level 90 of the maze, Shizuka's group had made significant progress, overcoming many challenges. However, they now faced a formidable enemy, a female demon accompanied by 10 powerful golden armored warriors. Mo's group observed the demon, who scornfully laughed, her voice resonating with arrogance. Despite the provocations that irritated the group, no one backed down, knowing that if they did not fight, they would have no chance to return. Both sides quickly engaged in a fierce battle, everyone striving to counter the continuous attacks of the demon clan. But the disparity in strength became apparent when a knight from the group struck the demon, and her wound healed instantly. A hopeless situation. Some members of the group began to lose spirit upon realizing the gap in strength. During this critical moment, Shizuku, sensing the danger, quickly instructed Ando, the young man with his hair covering his eyes, to run upstairs and call for their team leader, Brad, to come down for support. Ando sprinted as fast as he could, his heart pounding in his chest, knowing that if he did not deliver the message in time, the group would not survive. Finally reaching where team leader Brad was on guard, Ando barely began explaining the situation when a young girl named Yu, who was sitting and snacking, suddenly slammed the table and loudly questioned who the girl was that dared to come there. Nagumo, turning around with a flash of anger in his eyes, yelled that if anyone scared the girl, he would kill them himself. The room fell silent with no one daring to object. While in the maze, the battle continued intensely as a hero of the group successfully severed a gigantic gorilla that was charging at them. However, immediately after, the female demon used black magic to summon 2 giant phantom cats. Everyone tried to protect Shizuku, but one of them was pierced through the stomach by a cat's tail, blood spattering and creating a vivid red streak on the ground. Witnessing this scene, Kuki could not contain his anger and charged at the female demon. But she quickly disappeared, leaving him seething with rage. Kuki, mentally unstable, turned to everyone and yelled, questioning why they only knew how to flee, asking if they were all cowards. But before his rage escalated further, Shizuku stepped forward and slapped Kuki, jolting him awake. She reminded him not to let emotions control his actions. They needed to focus on surviving, not just fleeing, she said with a firm voice. Meanwhile, Ando continued his run up to level 70 where team leader Brad was on guard. But to his shock, upon arriving, a monster that appeared from a teleportation gate attacked and killed team leader Brad right in front of everyone. Overwhelmed with pain and anger, Kuki could not hold back his power, which surged beyond its limits. He killed the phantom cat and the monster, then charged at the female demon, driving his sword deep into her chest. But as he was about to finish her off, he suddenly hesitated, overwhelmed by horror as he had never killed anyone before. His hands trembled and his eyes filled with panic. Seeing this, the female demon quickly seized the opportunity, summoning a giant horse-headed creature that struck Kuki with a powerful punch, sending him flying upward. While Ando knelt before Nagumo, his eyes filled with despair, incessantly pleading for help. Deep within the maze, a fierce battle between Shizuku and the horse-headed monster continued. Known for her exceptional swordsmanship, Shizuku now faced an odd and terrifying opponent. Her accurate strikes were not strong enough to damage the monster. Each time she swung her sword, the monster's horsetail swung like a heavy sack, causing Shizuku both anger and confusion about how to counter it. Faced with the monster's implicit mockery, Shizuku felt increasingly pushed into a corner. Each swing of her sword seemed like a joke to it, and she could feel her fighting spirit gradually eroding. Just when she thought things couldn't get worse, the female demon above suddenly laughed loudly and began to chant. In a blink of an eye, two more horse-headed creatures appeared beside the first, their eyes glowing bloodthirsty red. Before Shizuku could prepare herself mentally, all three monsters charged at her like a violent storm, their collision force so great that Shizuku was thrown against the maze stone wall. The pain was so intense that she couldn't help but vomit a mouthful of bright red blood, each drop hitting the cold stone floor. At that moment of despair, a slicing sound suddenly tore through the air from above. Everyone looked up just in time to see a silver streak plummeting at an alarming speed, striking the first horse-headed creature directly in the head. The lethal strike caused the monster to emit a painful howl and then dissolve into a thick cloud of smoke. This sudden appearance stunned both the creatures and the onlookers. Emerging from the smoke was a man. Nagumo stood before everyone. However, the reality was that the impalement was not Nagumo's intentional aim at the creature. He had merely intended to break the ground, and it had coincidentally hit the target. His seemingly indifferent demeanor, yet terrifying accuracy of these unintentional actions, always left everyone agape. Thus, one by one, Nagumo helped everyone down safely, including Ando, who had just sought help, pulling him down without showing any emotion. The people trapped below looked up at Nagumo as if they were witnessing a divine being manifest, a moment filled with astonishment and disbelief. When Ando, who had previously been in a panic, successfully brought help, the female demon refused to sit idly and began to summon a horde of fierce beasts. However, Nagumo showed no sign of worry. With a cool demeanor, he expertly handled a gun in his hand as if participating in a sharpshooting performance. Each time he raised the gun, a monster fell. His shooting skills not only extraordinary but executed with such finesse and sharpness that it seemed he might possess untouchable precision. The monsters continued to approach like fierce snakes, but all were swiftly dealt with, even a giant turtle known for its sturdy shell. The turtle used an energy blast attack, but Nagumo simply used a shield to reflect the attack back, startling the female demon who dodged out of the way. More surprisingly, Nagumo's real target was not the demon herself, but the magical bird she used for healing. A precise shot brought the bird down, and the turtle, despite its hard shell, could not withstand Nagumo's bullets and eventually collapsed. The danger and skill of Nagumo made everyone wary, and Ando, who had led Nagumo to the scene, proudly claimed that he had managed to recruit him to help the redhead in their group, who suddenly felt a chill down his spine. This man, who had once tried to kill Nagumo, now had to face the reality that Nagumo was alive and stronger than ever. He panicked, his voice faltering, accusing Ando of lying. But Yu, standing next to Nagumo with a cold expression, sharply warned that if he dared to touch her Nagumo, he should beware. As soon as Yu's warning ended, the horse-faced monsters charged. but you needed only a dark orb attack to wipe them out. Kaio and Shizuku were not content to sit back. They joined the battle and killed a few monsters to relieve some boredom. The battle continued at an unimaginable pace, and soon the number of monsters significantly reduced. But suddenly, the female demon decided to use high-level magic, launching a powerful attack toward Nagumo. Mayo shouted in alarm, "Papa," startling Kaori, who turned to ask, "Nagumo has a kid." But before Kaori could inquire further, Nagumo advanced with an unchanged expression. The high-level magical attack did not affect him at all. Nagumo shot a bullet straight into the thigh of the female demon, unhesitatingly asking, "What are you doing here?" Nagumo realized that the demons she had summoned were all related to ancient magic, indicating that she was attempting to uncover the secrets of the cave. Instead of answering, she just gave a faint smile, threatening that her lover would soon come to seek revenge. Standing beside him, Kuki couldn't remain calm and pleaded with Nagumo not to kill the female demon, as she no longer had the ability to fight. Understanding the survival rule of their world, kill or be killed, Nagumo showed no mercy and decisively shot the female demon to end her life. He then turned to Shizuku to ask if Brad could still be saved, and fortunately, they managed to rescue him in time. As the battle concluded, Nagumo gently patted Yu on the head, praising her for doing a great job. However, after witnessing everything, Kaori couldn't control her emotions and rushed to hug Nagumo, crying. He stood awkwardly, not daring to respond because he knew that a storm named Yu was silently brewing behind him. Eventually, the group left the maze together, eliminating any remaining monsters on their way out. Upon reaching the maze entrance, they realized that their boss, Jun, had prepared a team to rescue those trapped, but clearly, their help was no longer needed. Later, Kaori asked to accompany Nagumo, but Yu immediately objected. The two stared at each other like eternal enemies, an angel and a devil competing for Nagumo. In the end, Nagumo decided to let Kaori join them, creating a tense scene where no one dared to intervene. The next morning, everyone said their goodbyes as Nagumo and his group prepared to continue on their new journey. The redhead only dared to watch from a distance, afraid to approach for fear of Nagumo dealing with him. Nagumo's familiar car was summoned, and the group set off toward new and promising adventures.